I'm welcoming everyone, and I'm going to bring us back from the closed session to the regular session. There's nothing to report out of closed session, and I wanted to welcome everyone to the August 12th, 2024 Auburn City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Amara.
Present.
Holmes.
Here.
Sarah Sammons.
Present.
And Mayor Riddell Harris.
Here. Very much. Councilman Holmes, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes. All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to the adoption of the agenda. This time is set aside for the council and members of the public to ask for the removal, postponement, or change of the listed sequence of an agenda item. The agenda will be approved by consensus of the council. Is there any members of the council that would like to change or amend the agenda? Any members of the public? Seeing none, without objection, the agenda will be approved. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved in one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. Council, do you have any items you would like to remove from the consent calendar?
I would.
Councilwoman
Item number 15, please.
Item number 15. Okay. Are there any other items?
Item 11.
Item number 11 from Councilman Holmes. Anything else? Councilwoman Dowden Calvillo?
Nope.
You're good? Okay. All right, then, are there any members of the public that would like to remove items from the consent calendar? Sure, come on up. Just let us know what item that you're going to, and then we'll have you talk on it later when it comes up.
Item number 6 for discussion.
Item number 6. Thank you. We'll call you back up when there's public comment on that item. Okay. If that is all, then we're going to have public comment on the remaining items on the consent calendar. Is there any public comment on those items? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'll move approval of the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving forward with the items, we're going to start with item number 6, the authorization to accept funds for the Cannabis Tax Fund Grant Program. Chief, do you want to come up and just give us a brief summary of what that item is? Thank you.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, Ryan Canan, your Chief of Police. So tonight, yes, we have the staff report to accept about $150,000 in grant funding through the state through the tobacco, I'm sorry, as my notes just went away, as the cannabis funds that the state collects. So that is through the CHP. So the California Highway Patrol, we can apply through them. They then give us the funds to do a couple things. One, increase our enforcement for DUI efforts as it's related to drunk driving, also impaired driving with drugs like cannabis. And then also this one allows us to get some training out of it to advance and improve the officers, and then equipment. This one allows us to purchase a vehicle and the equipment to go along with that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Is there any questions from the council? Any comments? Okay, we're going to go to public comment on this item, so feel free to come up and give your public comment.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Rich Miller, representing the American Alliance for Medical Cannabis. I stand before you this evening to advocate for public safety, safe roadways, and education. The cannabis industry generates significant tax revenue for our state, which is essential for public services like education and infrastructure. However, the city has chosen to exclude cannabis businesses operating within its limits. yet it still benefits from the funds generated by the industry. This situation presents an inconsistency that needs to be addressed. A city should not be able to decline participation in economic benefits of the cannabis industry while still receiving financial supports derived from it. This raises questions about fairness and accountability. It is important for us to reconsider these funds are distributed through cities that actively choose to participate and benefit from the cannabis industry should be prioritized in receiving financial support. This approach aligns with the principles of fairness and ensures the resources of all allocated to those who are generally contribute and to support the industry. In conclusion, we advocate for a fair system where financial resources reflect genuine engagement and contribution. We respectfully ask that you re-examine your cannabis business policies and prioritize by moving forward with the implementation of a pilot program for cannabis businesses and ordinance within our community for safe and affordable access to all our patients and all our consumers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your public comment. Are there any other public comments on this item? Okay.
I have a question. Mr. Chief? Does this particular grant program have any kind of criteria about about cities or counties qualifying whether or not they have licensed facilities for cannabis within their jurisdiction? Is that at all one of the criteria?
I don't believe it is. I couldn't specifically tell you, but that doesn't sound familiar.
It seems to me that if that was a criteria, the CHP would not approve the grant, which CHP, you put in your application and CHP found that you were in compliance with the rules and regulations that govern this particular program. Respectfully, I understand what you're saying, but this is not just about, although this is monies that derived from cannabis industry, the purpose of the funds, to use the funds are for all DUI activities, which includes alcohol and other drugs as well. I appreciate the fact that you've gone after these dollars because it is incredibly important to keep these folks off our streets. We've done a great job in the city of Auburn in our DUI program. I'm very proud. I know that MAD has recognized this time and time again. And so I do applaud you for going after these funds, and I fully support the acceptance of these monies for this particular purposes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, could you, I know that we talked about looking into possible marijuana cannabis businesses within Auburn. Can you give us a little update on where that is right now and what we're doing?
Yeah, staff is currently setting up meetings with Grass Valley, who does have a recreation dispensary in the city limits. So we're setting up a staff kind of working group meeting with them, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll take council members up to their dispensary to tour that as well. But from what I've seen, the process that Grass Valley followed was a pretty good one. And so we're going to try to basically emulate that as much as we can, as long as it fits with what the community is doing.
About how long did it take for Grass Valley to?
Well, they like long, I mean,
It took a couple of years.
yeah, it was,
Couple of years because they included a task force of community members. And so there was a lot of discussion with the residents and what they did and didn't want and what kinds of facilities, size and things of that nature. So it was we
have been looking at this for a while, though. It's been, this was brought up and by the city council to look at probably close to a year ago, 9 months ago, I would say.
I think it was sometime maybe January, February, somewhere around there.
it
Yeah.
wasn't that, yeah.
It's been a while ago.
When I've
been a while.
spoken, I have asked other cities about, about this issue and everybody has said that they've taken the time with the community outreach. I know that this city provided direction, but we've done no outreach. We haven't even set up, but in any event.
Yeah, we're
looking
we're
into it.
still, the
There's-
staff
there's-
is looking into a plan, and then once
Right.
we figure out what we want to do, then we would do.
That's
communication.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think the point is well taken that we are not hypocrites. We are looking into it. We're accepting cannabis money, but we're also looking into whether or not it's feasible and acceptable and for this community.
Is there any other comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council.
I'd like to move by resolution to approve and authorize the city manager or his designee to accept the funds of the California Highway Patrol Cannabis Tax Fund Grant Program in the amount of $157.16.
I'll second that.
Consent is important. I'll second. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo,
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Okay, moving on to item number 11, the 2024 Street Overlay Project, Environmental Determination and Permission to Advertise. Councilman Holmes, I believe that was yours.
Yes.
Councilor Mr. Dean, would you like to give us a little, just a brief summary of this item?
Absolutely happy to do so, Madam Mayor. Manager Dean, Public Works Director. This evening before you, we have the 2024 Street Overlay and Project and Environmental Determination with staff asking permission to advertise the project. Currently, the project is located on Sherland Track, just off of Maidu Drive to Gray Horse Lane, and Maidu Drive from Auburn Folsom to Berlin Way. Marion Way is also included in this project from end to end, and there is going to be some small residual streets that will be included once we advertise, then we bring it back to council, and you'll be able to see the full extent of the project.
Thank you. Councilman Holmes?
Yes, well, my question is that you know, I've noticed that some of our parking lots have big gaps and holes and potholes and so forth. I'm wondering if some of this funding could be used to repair those as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Mr. Holmes. These funds are absolutely eligible for utilization for fixing parking lots. Again, once we determine a final project, it may include a parking lot, it may not. What we do is use the pavement condition index to determine the worst roads or the things that are going to best serve the funds that we currently have for utilization. And then we bring those projects to council, and you can determine what aspects of the project will actually move forward with.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any items from the council?
I just as a, since this got pulled off, just a comment is that, of course, you know, given the, the deficit that we're facing and so forth, we have reduced the amount of money that we're putting into this. There's, I think, only $100,000 that would be utilized from the general fund. Is that correct? I think.
I believe the total amount of money is utilized from the general fund is actually quite a little bit smaller than that. I think it's something around the tone of $80,000 to $90,000.
Okay. Well, okay. I think I took it in the notes. The total project was $939,891, but $100,000 was from general fund.
Yes.
So, and I appreciate that we're using LTF monies and we're using gas tax monies that can only be utilized for these kinds of projects. And I just would urge us not to expand the scope of our project that would require us to spend any more general fund monies. I mean, we really can't afford that at this time. We did extra paving last year. You know, we did double. And so, you know, just with all due respect, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with the $100,000 contribution, but I would not want to go over to include additional projects at this time. I know that that Marion Way is horrific, so I'm very happy to see that we're going to be doing reconstruction because it is. I drove it and I almost needed a four-wheel drive to get out of those potholes up that hill. I mean, I don't know how the emergency vehicles. I don't know. Anyway. Thank you. But I just wanted to make that clear from my perspective that I am very cognizant of our issue, and I know my colleagues are too.
The city manager and the finance director have similar concerns, shared similar concerns. So we are definitely going to stay within that $939,891 constraint. So.
Okay. Is there any other council items? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council.
I move by resolution that we find the 2024 street overlay project categorically exempt from the CEQA per section 15301 and section 15302. And by motion, authorize Public Works Director to advertise for the 2024 street overlay project.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 15, purchase of 2 electric vans for the transit department.
Yes, I pulled that off. It's self-explanatory. I just want to say I'm just tickled pink excited. I think it's wonderful that we're going this direction. I really think that this is a good use of our transit system, and have the studies to back it up. My only disappointment, of course, is I wish now that since we do have vans, that they can access the confluence. We're trying to expand our business and our economy, and I think it's a big opportunity to go down to the confluence on a regular basis if we can, and come up, especially since the new vans are equipped with lifts and bike racks. Number one. Number two, I'm hoping that we can look into expanded hours too, since, we have a really good on-demand system. But right now, many of my constituents say that they can't use it on hours other than work hours. And some people want to do it after hours, so I'm hoping weekends and after hours, we can expand it.
So staff will be bringing the comprehensive operational analysis for the transit department in front of the council very shortly. And council at that time can give us any direction that they see fit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just had one quick thing as well. I was in North Auburn, outside the city limits, and I saw one of our wonderful transit vehicles that was dropping off someone for a doctor's appointment. Have we done more to figure out with Placer County about how we can work with them to make sure that we're being assisted with the costs of serving their service territory?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for the question, Madam Mayor. We are part of the comprehensive operational analysis. We're looking at the service area. Right now, unfortunately, a lot of Auburn residents like to go into the counties for certain things like the Home Depot and the Target.
Medical and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's just one of those things of the cost of doing business currently. But with the comprehensive operational analysis, we're looking at what service area is going to be served by which transit operator. Placer County Transit recently started their own on-demand program, which is picking up. So with that, there is going to be some slight changes to how both systems operate and how we interact with each other. And we expect to have something in front of the council very shortly.
Great. Thank you so much.
I wonder what they charge for their on-demand. Is it about what we charge, or we don't know yet?
I think their dollar amount is slightly lower than ours. However, ours is more premier in the sense that we're very much door to door. They have aerial drop off locations.
Yeah.
Very good.
Councilwoman
Still-
Sears-Salmon.
We don't.
Thank you, Menjel. I know that, school is starting, this week and around our other jurisdictions as well. So good luck, Godspeed. And I did see here that, we do have a bit of a wait for these vans, but I'm presuming that we will try to get those into use for our school kiddos.
Absolutely. We're hoping that we can have the vans in our fleet as early as November. We're anticipating some challenges with the new school year with all the schools going K through 8 and
Yes.
dropping off at the same time. We'll figure it out. We've done it in the past and
Always
we'll
do.
do it in the future.
You always do. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there any other items from the council? No. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to the council. Oh, come on up. You need to come up and use the microphone. Sorry, because we're recording.
My name's Dan Watson. I'm a first-time visitor here. And when I'm out and about, I don't know if it's just me, but if you're talking these transit vehicles, the buses, I assume,
These would be vans, like
vans,
yeah,
okay.
smaller than a bus.
Go ahead.
I'm talking about the vans. It seems like every time I see one, they're empty. And I'm just curious, is this like a lost leader for the city? I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a vehicle or two, so I don't need them. But every time I'm out and about, I see a driver. Not only for the city, but for the county. And I read the local newspaper, and I understand there's a big budget crunch for the city. And I'm just wondering, is this a lost leader? I mean, do we really need to do this with all the other demands? We're asking for pavement repair. The sewer topic is on board here, which I'm here for that. Do we really need 2 new vans when, just from my eyes, and I'm not everybody, they seem to be empty quite a bit of the time? Thank you. I'll take my comments sitting down.
Okay, thank you very much. I know that Menjel's been working really hard to make sure that we don't have empty vehicles driving around as much as that used to be the case
Yeah.
running those routes. So Menjel, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll certainly share
routes
this for the council's benefit. Auburn Transit is operated 100% through on-demand right now. So if the gentleman sees a van coming back from a location, it's possible that it's empty, but we're never empty in both directions because we're 100% on demand. In particular, the funding mechanism utilized for transit are funds that are specifically designated for that purpose and cannot be used for any other purpose,
Yeah.
i.e. local transportation funds that is generated through a quarter-cent sales tax through the TDA program. So
Those are state and federal money. So there are monies that the city receives for transportation purposes at the federal state level. They can only be utilized for transportation. We
Absolutely.
can't use them for parking. We can't use them for street repair. And so we do use those monies and our
Well, and we're not, I'm sorry, I
I
don't
was
mean,
gonna say, and our on-demand program has increased our use of transit greatly than when we used to do just the regular bus routes.
that is correct.
and it takes time. We're changing and we want people to understand that, they can use it. It's like Uber. So it takes time for us to get the word out.
And
But
I'll
I
also
think you're doing a great job.
I'll also share for the council benefit, our on-demand program has seen an increase in ridership year to year ever since it's been in existence. So it's doing what it's intended to do.
I also would note that every time that I've been dropping off my kid and picking up at school, that there's a on-demand bus waiting there for our kids because the school district decided to discontinue their transportation. So I think that we've done a great job of picking up that ball that got dropped and have been really helping to get our students where they need to go so that they can attend school. So I think that's also a critical thing that you've been able to kind of fill that gap. So I appreciate that as well.
And we're also downsizing because we actually have two buses that we're replacing. One is a natural gas bus and the other is
Gasoline,
gasoline. And so they are both out of their
useful life.
useful life. And so we're not purchasing buses. We're actually going to a much smaller vehicle with the vans. And
They're-
because we are changing more to that on-demand service, which is you like an Uber really is what we're doing. So it's actually kind of the way transit is shifting, especially in Placer County and so more areas
lot of
up here
counties, yeah.
in Northern California.
Yeah.
A lot of counties are
And
doing.
I want to add, that's a very good point. We used to have buses going around on demand. Now they're down to vans. And you can, sometimes you'll see that there's even vehicles. I've been picked up by a car,
Yeah.
regular passenger car. So it's a really good opportunity. And I bet many of you here, or many of the people in the audience here and watching probably don't know that we have this on demand and the cost and the hours. That's something that just takes time. And it's an opportunity that's pretty nice. And young kids who use Uber a lot, once they get the hang of it, I think this will really catch on and be a very valuable service.
It's certainly been more cost effective by council's direction, and there's a savings associated with it to the taxpayers. So
Yes. Thank you.
That's what we want to make sure.
Is there any other public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council.
I move by resolution, authorize Public Works Director to purchase 2 electric vans for the transit department.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara,
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Sierra Sammons,
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye, motion carries. Moving forward, we're going from the consent calendar into public comment. This is a time that's provided to the public where they may speak to the council on any items that are not on the agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible, not to exceed 3 minutes. The council cannot act on the items not included in the agenda. These items will be, may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Okay. Hello.
Hello, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'll let you think I'd know that by now. Hi, thank you for having us. My name is Jamie, and I first really want to give a shout out to the National Night Out, which was super successful. It was so wonderful to see amazing faces there. We had kids singing karaoke all night, so we had a blast. So just a shout out to the chief and his crew for making that happen, as well as you for making that happen. And then we also wanted to invite you out. I happen to be the founder of Kids-A-Palooza, and Kids-A-Palooza is coming up in September 5th over at ARD Recreation Park. And unfortunately, when the Auburn Arts Commission got cut on their budget. So that was our grant and we also got cut. And so to make up for that, we're putting together a kickball tournament, the city versus the chamber. And it's going to be amazing. We have a trophy. And so we came to just employ you all to come participate and be a part of our kickball tournament. It's August 23rd. It goes hand in hand with the food truck fiesta. So there will already be an amazing night and a lot of things going on. And then we're asking any city members, elected officials, employees to come register to be on the city side. And then anybody who's a part of the chamber, businesses, any organizations in the city chamber to be on the other side. So we should be having a really good time. So signups are really easy, kidsapalooza.org, or you can contact me directly. But we're hoping to see you all there.
I do have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
This is a fundraiser, correct? So there is a donation that's being asked for?
Yes. So we're not turning anyone away. Just we'll throw that out there first and foremost. We're not turning anyone away. But we are asking for a $40 donation if you can afford it to go towards Kidsapalooza, which will be September 5th.
Thank you.
We already have one council member signed up.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And yeah. the
If your
chamber better
mayor's
watch
gonna
out,
do
'cause
it.
We got some pretty good people on the city side. So we've got firefighters, we got police officers, we've got some good folks. So I have a feeling that we'll have a pretty good team. So we better get that, the chamber better get.
Chamber's calling on construction, so be careful.
Oh, okay.
That's a joke, but yeah, we'll see you all out there. Thank you so much. Hit us up if you do have any other questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there any other public comments, general public comment? Okay. Moving on.
Oh, we have one
Oh,
more.
we have one from Chief. Sorry, I didn't realize that you were getting up for the public comment.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. John Rogers, your fire chief. And this evening, I'd like to take a minute to personally introduce our newest employee and Battalion Chief Matt McCarthy. So Matt has 25 years of experience in the fire service. He brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to both the city and the citizens of Auburn. His most recent position was serving the citizens of Rio Vista and Solano County as an engineer, paramedic, and acting fire captain. Before that, he dedicated approximately 20 years to the Placer Hills Fire Protection District, just east of Auburn, where he started as a firefighter in 1997 and advanced all the way through the ranks to captain, paramedic, and acting battalion chief. Matt holds a bachelor's degree in emergency services management and various professional certifications, including as firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and company officer. Right now, he's working towards completing his chief officer certificate and will have the final coursework completed in the near future. Matt's a registered instructor with the California State Fire Marshal's Office, and with that, he'll be assuming the role of department training officer. Most importantly, he resides in Rockland with his wife, Sarah, and their 4 children, Danielle, Tristan, Bo, and Finn. His personal time is dedicated to family activities with 4 children. He spends a lot of time at the sports fields, mostly. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to bring him and introduce him to you this evening. So
Thank you. Welcome.
Matt also got the memo on the haircut.
Oh,
City of Auburn haircut.
he's missing the mustache.
Yes,
That's coming.
I knew that was something. There was something.
Oh,
I don't want to be negative,
Yeah,
but
please.
last week and some other times it's
Oh,
happened.
can you say your name? real
I'm
fast?
sorry, Peggy Meadows, 247 Aeolia Drive. Over the years, I find it very hard sometimes to get a live person to answer the phone with the city. And last week I was trying to find somebody to tell me what email address I could send some comments to for some of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. And I couldn't get any callbacks. It was always a recording from whatever department I tried. I don't know. It's been this way for years. So if there's anything you can do to have somebody actually answer the phone, that would be nice. I just thought I'd put that in
Thank
there.
you so much. Thank you. We'll refer that over to staff to take a look at that.
Dan Watson again, to dovetail on what that young lady just talked about. I've experienced the same thing trying to call the city. No answer, no answer, no answer, leave a message, no return phone call. Is this the Director of Public Works here?
Yes, that's Ben Dean.
Okay. I called him a couple weeks back. And I really didn't expect to get a return phone call. He returned my phone call in an hour. And I was surprised. And he was very helpful with the matter that I had at hand, which again is the sewer topic. And I don't know, is that coming up or am I
Yes, it
to talk
is.
about it? Okay,
It's next on our agenda.
okay. But it was the rare exception where he did return a phone call promptly. And I thought that should be made note of here in this meeting.
Thank you for that. We'll have staff look into that. Make sure that we can be returning people's phone calls. So thank you. Okay, are there any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll be moving on to our public hearings. We're going to be starting with the Aeolia Sewer Assessment hearing. On behalf of the city, I'd like to welcome everyone to the public hearing. We're going to open the public hearing. This is a time and place for the public hearing on the consideration of to approve the sewer line project and the assessment for the Aeolia sewer assessment. First, I'd like to say that there was our first hearing on June 10th. That was setting this hearing for today on August 12th. And the notices were sent to all of the persons entitled to have notice after that happened. So that way they would know that this hearing was happening today. So before receiving any public comment and input on this proposed resolution, staff will give us a brief review of the proposed resolution. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor. You've covered many of the things that I was planning on covering already. During the council meeting on June 10th, staff highlighted the concerns about the private line serving the 11 parcels along Aeolia Drive. This line is starting to fill in several areas due to outdated materials and it no longer meets modern standards or current demands. Staff recommended upgrading the line to meet the current standards and incorporating it into the city's infrastructure. The estimated cost for this project was approximately $500,000. Following the council's direction, staff proposed the property owners at a 0% interest rate over a 20-year period as a good faith effort to address what has been a long-standing issue within the area. This 20-year period matched the expected lifespan of the upgraded infrastructure and is generally considered the maximum time period that you can finance something over its useful life. If you try to go beyond that, you're probably making repairs to it or replacing it while you're still paying for the old line. So it was just a good recommended date, and we thought that would make the most sense. The assessed area included 11 residential parcels. Staff has been in communication with the property owners to ensure that they fully understand the process. The ballots for vote were sent out before June 28th deadline for the Prop 218 process. And at this point, the city clerk has received the ballots and will turn it over. I'll turn this over to her to tabulate the responses and await council's response to staff's recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bad.
For this hearing, we will receive public protest and comment. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. We will let you know when the 3 minutes is up. Let's see. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. City Attorney. Please briefly explain the purpose of the public hearing.
Yeah, happy to, Mayor and council member. Not much more to add from this, but this is a Prop 218 hearing. So this is required under Proposition 218 from 1996 and also a series of state laws that implement that constitutional provision. So notice was provided at least 45 days before this hearing to the 11 property owners. The purpose of this is to hear public comment, not just from them, but from everyone. And then also to tabulate the assessment ballots. Some of those have been submitted in advance and the clerk has held them unopened in preparation for this meeting. If there are any other property owners here, though, they can also submit assessment ballots at any time before the close of the public hearing. It needs to be on the ballot that's been provided by the city. So if anybody needs a new one or wants to change a vote, now's the time to do it. And the clerk can provide that different ballot to the person who would like to use it. And then at the conclusion of that, the clerk will tabulate it, declare it, and then you all will have a discussion and then a potential vote, assuming that there are a majority of the property owners who are in support of the assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. The public hearing is now open. Please state your name and address for the record. If you are a or if you are a member of the voting population from the Aeolia area. In fairness to all, each will be limited to 3 minutes. So is there anyone who would like to speak on this item for 3 minutes? Feel free to come on.
Hi, Peggy Meadows again from 247 Aeolia Drive. We moved there in 2010, and after a couple of years, realized our neighbor just down from us was having sewer problems. And so they would now and then have somebody come out and snake or use a camera, things like that. After a few years of that, the 5 of us on the private line that I don't think any of us knew about before we bought our property. We ended up getting together. My husband, Mark, put together like a little contract for us to kind of Band-Aid it so that when things happen, we would all cooperate, even though it wasn't in our yard, but because we shared the line, we were trying to be good neighbors. And this has added up over the years. And I started working with the prior city manager to see if we could come up with a more permanent solution. And in the last couple of years, Jackie has kind of taken over that aspect of working with the new city manager and the new public works director. So the thing is, we were just 5 property owners on a line. The way it's described in the report, it's calling the whole area one line. And we weren't really dealing with that. We didn't think of it that way. We thought ours are 5 properties. And now we're being joined with the other properties that continue on down Aeolia, closer to Darlington and Birdsall. And I'm not so sure that it's a good idea to call it one line. I mean, we want to become one line. We want to join the city. We want to have a city line out in the street like a normal residential neighborhood would have. Like I said, we didn't know this before we bought our properties. So I'm trying to keep this to 3 minutes. The problems that we see with the proposal is when we've been keeping up with this all along, and we do not like that it has no room for an option of 30 years. In the description of it, I was reading it today, description about what's the expected life. And then the next sentence says that the existing line has been there for many tens of years, which is like, it's more like 40, 50 years that we've had it. So you can expect it more than 20 years. Whatever's going to be put in should last more than 20 years. And most things, when people become part of an assessment or a bond district or whatever, I don't know the real lingo as far as the legality of it, but it makes a lot of sense. First of all, it goes with the property. It doesn't mean that you have to pay it off when you sell the property. And second of all, it should be able to be the option of a 30-year payback instead of a 20-year. It's a hardship on some of my neighbors. And those of us that are in the group of 5, we have a majority who are against the way it's proposed. I have Candy Waltz's and Rick Muir's agreement that we do not favor the way it's proposed. And we think that there needs to be a little more work on it. We do want to join the city in on it. We don't want to pass up an opportunity to get this taken care of. But at the same time, we feel like the city has approved over the years, has approved new houses. I'm sorry, just can I do my husband's? Can I? Just this one last point. The one last point is we have been paying property in our property taxes. I did want you to have this figure because it seemed like you didn't know it last time. Now this is from 22-23. We paid $943 for our sewer fee for the year. So it isn't that we haven't been paying for the sewer. And the other thing, what was I going to say? And all of a sudden I forgot. I knew that was going to happen if I didn't write it down. But we hope that you would take that into consideration of providing us options and let us continue working on this together. Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to address a couple of concerns that the
Please do.
young lady had. The assessment, and I've spoken to the county about this, is with the parcel. So if a resident sells the home, they don't have to pay it off. It goes with the parcel. It's just going to be part of the disclosure with the sale. So you're not required to pay it off should you sell the home tomorrow. Secondarily, I know it looks like it's two lines, but it's two lines over an area that's connected to one trunk line. And I would like the property owners to consider if you were just using 5 homes to pay the cost of this project, because the size of the project really doesn't impact the cost. The more homes you have to amortize this over makes it cheaper for you as a whole. I just want to point that out. So
It wouldn't be substantially cheaper to have 5 homes versus 11 homes. It would just have it be more expensive per home.
for each individual parcel.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this item? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie Silverman. I live at 150 Birdsall. And I wanted to actually speak for one of our neighbors who isn't here, Eric Comstock, who lives on Aeolia, through whose property all of our lines, either on the Darlington Birdsall line or the one that goes up Aeolia, runs through. We share that line, as Mendel said, through a manhole cover that is ours privately. And one of the issues that has come up since we've all voted on this last ballot is simply there are owners who have, I haven't spoken to Peggy about this, but who have wondered, why should we try to come up with a private solution? Can we do this? And let's just keep doing it as we've had it before. And the problem is there are legalities at play that a lot of us have discussed, and that has to do with the fact that we have no easement going through this poor man's property, and it has bubbled over and run down his property. And it might be quite expensive to tackle this. And so many of us, I think, have written you and said, thank you for giving us an option, because we haven't solved it ourselves yet. And poor Mr. Comstock is very eager. He's at home now, watching us now. Hi, Eric. But he's very eager for this resolution to be voted on. And so on behalf of Mr. Comstock and the others who are here today, we just wanted to say thank you. And hopefully the vote will turn out in a way that will give us progress. And so thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much for your comment. Are there any other comments?
Hi, my name is Mark Meadows. I have a 247 Aeolia, Peggy's husband. So I just would piggyback a little bit on what she said since she kind of ran out of time. To add on the 30-year, we're in favor of having the project overall. It's necessary. But the one item now that's really hard, rubbing us the wrong way, is the 20-year term instead of the 30-year, because that puts so much more burden every year in payments to the property owners at a time when all our insurance rates are going sky high, and there's an additional sewer charge coming, and so it's not easy. And so it just seems like a 30-year term would be a good compromise in terms of getting the project done, but not putting undue burden on the property owners. And many people are on fixed incomes that are retired there in the community as well. And then the other thing I had was just a question. The project's estimated at 500,000, but we couldn't find anywhere it was stated if it comes in under what happens, or if it comes in over what happens. So that'd be nice to have that clarification. Thank you.
Menjo, before you clarify that, is the assessment, it's no interest, is that correct?
It's a 0% interest loan over the 20-year period.
Okay, thank you.
And I've mentioned this to the homeowners in meetings that we've had in the past, and perhaps you weren't there, and I apologize for not getting this to you sooner. The project is estimated at $500,000. I don't think it'll go over that, to be completely honest with you, based off of bids that we've previously received to do the project. And if there is savings associated with the project, we will certainly pass it off to the owner. We're not using the $500,000. This is what you pay for this. We're going to try to do this as cost effectively as possible. That's always our goal with any public works projects that we put out. We're going to bid it as we would bid any other project, get the required amount of bids, pick the lowest bidder, and we're going to pass those savings on to the end user.
And we aren't, there's been a lot of cost to the city for organizing this project, talking it through, working with the customers, creating the bids, and none of that is included in any of those costs.
Yeah, there's some costs that we've already incurred, legal costs and things like that that are going to be associated with this project. But I have to tell you, I haven't documented much of my time on this. And there's been, as you guys know, there's been a significant effort on my time as well as public works staff that's not necessarily included in this. I don't want to say it's a gift to you because it's not that, but it's just, we're here working anyway, and we're working on your behalf. And we want to make sure that you know that.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay. Seeing none.
I think our city attorney wanted.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, one of the public commenters had mentioned that there were other folks perhaps who were opposed to it. So one last call for ballots too before you close the hearing, because this is the last time to submit anything.
Okay. If anyone would like to submit a ballot who hasn't done so, please, now is the time to submit a ballot. Otherwise, we're going to move forward and close the public hearing and open the ballots. Is there anyone else who would like to submit one? Did you submit a ballot? Not the second one.
So, yeah, so there are two public hearings tonight. It's not entirely clear from the comment, but the Aeolia assessment, only the property owners, the 11 who are there, can submit ballots for that one. And so that's really what we're talking about now. If one of those property owners would like to submit.
So if you're one of the property owners and you've submitted one of these ballots, then you've already completed that. If you have not submitted a ballot to us, then you have the opportunity to do so now. Is that, thank you.
You have any blank ones? Just in case they didn't.
I do not. Oh, she had. She didn't.
We have to close the public comment and read these, and then the city can, and then the council decides on what the end result is after the vote has been counted.
So that we don't talk about the merits of the project until we close
sure.
public hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
and how we want to. We're going to do the results of the balloting, and then we'll have our discussion and decide if there's any amendments to what the original decision was. And there's some guidelines around there that I have to read.
Thank you. We don't do these every day.
No,
No, haven't in 15 years.
we're all learning together. Thank you to our legal counsel for giving us scripts and whatnot. Okay. If that is the only one, then we're gonna, so there being no more public comment, I close the public hearing, and I'm also informing the public that the period for the receipt of public protest on the proposition, on the proposed project, by the city is also closed. If needed, the meeting, can take a break for tabulation, but I think that we should be good with just tabulating them here. Okay, so, Madam Clerk, you can tabulate the votes.
Jeopardy.
Mhm.
Not that we're watching you or anything.
I know. Elections, I'm witnessing.
Amongst yourselves. I told her to need music in the back. You gonna sign up for kickball?
No.
You can be the cheerleader on the side.
Yeah.
On the chamber member.
Choose wisely.
11. Well, but I don't think they.
Yes.
You're the
Nobody
monitor,
can
you're the
say-
election monitors? Yes.
That's exactly right.
Sure.
Self-appointed.
Maybe Chaz.
Good thing it's only 11. Yeah. Paper cut.
I know.
Say,
Where's
where's
your
the
envelope opener?
letter opener?
Okay, Madam Mayor and Council, there are 11 properties on Aeolia for this project. We received 10 ballots. 8 of them are yes and 2 are no. This is confirming that a majority of the property owners that submitted ballots approved the assessment.
Okay, so now is the time for council and staff discussion. The council may deliberate on any of the proposed changes to the resolution, so long as the changes are less costly to the customers. We cannot increase the cost over what has been proposed. The city attorney will advise on any proposed changes to the resolution, if needed. Is there any discussion on this item?
Menjel, if you would please just talk about why you're suggesting the 20-year versus the 30-year and talk about the equipment and
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do so. I know this is a sore subject, but generally when you're putting in a public work infrastructure or purchasing a product of any kind, you have to identify a useful life for that product based off of manufacturer recommendations for what you're getting. Pipes in ground, there's a lot of unknown. So industry standard, it's a 20-year useful life. Could it go beyond that? It's very possible. As the young lady has pointed out, the stuff that's there has been there for an undetermined amount of time.
but it doesn't work anymore.
But I would also like to identify that it is not functioning as it should. It would be, I think, reckless on our part to assume beyond the manufacturer's recommendation that it's going to last that period. It's just a safety mechanism built into place, to be 100% honest with you. We know what it costs to do this project today, and we know the lifespan of the materials that we're putting into the ground as recommended by manufacturers. I cannot make a recommendation beyond that. And if you were, the way I tried to explain it is if you were financing a Nissan Sentra, you wouldn't do it over 15 years because the probability of the car being on the road isn't there anymore. You would have to replace it while you're still paying for it. And it's just something to consider. Could we finance it over a 30-year period? We could, but it's likely that we'll be replacing and still paying for it while we're, you know what I mean? So.
And just for the purposes of the record, that once the improvements are made, the city is going to assume ownership and further maintenance of that line. So it will be under our responsibility. There will no longer be any Band-Aid fixes and so forth that the poor neighbors have been dealing with all these years. It will be our responsibility from that point forward.
Absolutely. From the day it's accepted, it would be all maintenance and everything associated with it now becomes like any other public line or public utility that we're currently serving. And more importantly, it's probably one of the things that was mentioned a little earlier, establishing the easement for that trunk line that runs through that private property is going to be essential, because should there be an environmental concern, that is now going to be on the city's behalf, that we have to maintain it. Right now, should something happen, the property owners have to deal with that, and dealing with the State Water Board on other issues, I can tell you that's probably something that you don't want.
We're also providing substantial savings by not charging interest over those 20 years.
Oh, absolutely. The dollar amount today versus just 5 years from now is going to make it seem absolutely worth it as it is. I mean, if it were me, I'm not telling anyone how to do it, but I wouldn't look at an early payoff because this dollar amount in 20 years is going to be way less than it is today. So I would just let it ride.
I wanted to say, this is an issue that has been in front of me for quite a number of years now. I've had multiple neighbors raise this issue and raise the problem, and trying to come up with a solution. You know, there's been a variety of suggestions over the years and so forth. But I really appreciate that we are able to forge this public-private partnership with this line. I appreciate the neighbors are having, critical difficulties. You've got sewage on people's personal property that's coming from upstream and what have you, and that needs to be addressed. And I have always, and Menjel and I had these discussions years ago about, is there any way that the city can make these improvements and then charge the residents so that the residents don't have to go out and get a contract bid and trying to deal with the easement issue and trying to deal, I mean, that is just a whole nightmare in its own right. And so we're able to do that for them. And I really appreciate that we're able to have the funds in our sewer enterprise to make the loan. We're providing a 0% interest rate for this fix, and we'll be assuming that line. And it's going to be better for everyone in the neighborhood. It really is. I can only imagine the difficulties. I live in the city, but I have a septic tank because I live in Roby Point. So I'm responsible for all of my issues, and it can be very expensive, and you try to do things piecemeal and you do it as best as you can. And pretty much you got to bite the bullet and pay for the pipes, and it's just really expensive. But I appreciate what staff has put together and the neighborhood and the neighbors working together and recognizing that this really is the best option for everyone. And so thank you very much. I appreciate too people wanting that longer term. But when the suggested expiration date is 20 years, then we've got to go with that. Because that would be irresponsible for us. If the manufacturer is saying the life of something is 20 years, then it would be irresponsible for us to use taxpayer dollars, even though they're going to be paid back to lengthen that. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'd like to add that, it is a difficult position we're in. We have to balance city economics and along with your circumstances. And I certainly understand that, but I'm hoping that you'll understand that, it's a 0 interest loan, basically, and we're willing to do that. And we're working hard. Our staff is working hard, has worked hard and spent a lot of time and effort. So, I feel comfortable with this, and I'm hoping that, it's feasible for all of you. And I appreciate all the work that you did and the collaboration with the community.
I would also like to add, I would just like to add my appreciation to the staff and to the community for how this has been in the works for a long time. And I know that it's not an easy thing to talk about when people think that something is one way and that they bought a house assuming that there were pipes there that they were going to be working, and we're not, we're owned by the city, and that didn't turn out to be a reality. And then you have to kind of work together to come up with a solution. So I think this is a good solution. Is it, perfect for everybody? And does it meet everyone's exact needs? Probably not. If those are the best solutions where everyone is, getting what they need, but maybe can't get everything. But this does meet the end goal of getting those houses on sewer and having that problem resolved. And so I appreciate everyone's willingness to work together to kind of come up with a solution to make that happen. And I'm happy that the city had the money in the sewer fund to be able to provide that so that way we can make that resolution happen. So thank you everyone for working on this. Anyone else? Mr. Holmes?
Yes, I was just going to mention that the first residence I bought in Auburn had its own septic system, which cost more money to have serviced and so forth than being on the city system. So, but I appreciate the fact that, and I won't say I'm shocked, but that this has gone on for so long. But anyway, I think this is a reasonable solution to correcting the situation.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sarah Simmons?
Thanks. Just in the interest of time, I just want to echo my colleagues' sentiments, and much thanks to our staff, to our residents, especially those that have been there. And I know most of you have been there since day one. So bless you for your patience and for your cooperation. And hopefully we're finally on the way to a resolution. So thank you all.
I
Done,
think
done.
we've done with public comment for on this item, so I'm sorry. I don't think we can do questions. We can, after it's over with, you can talk to staff and ask those questions. Okay. So if there's no more deliberation, with no further matters to be discussed on this topic, by the council, I hereby close the public hearing. And does the council wish to take any action on
Yeah,
this resolution?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll move by resolution that we approve the sewer line project and the assessment to fund the project as proposed by.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Without any further discussion, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sierra Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. The resolution has been adopted. Thank you. All right. If you don't want to stay for the rest of the council meeting, we won't be offended.
They did, oh.
We're going to move on to the next public hearing, which is the sewer rate study update adoption.
They remember.
Okay, so on behalf of the city, I welcome you to this public hearing. This is a time and a place, and the place for a public hearing on the consideration of the resolution setting rates and charges for wastewater service. For this hearing, we will be receiving public protest and comment. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. We will let you know when those 3 minutes is up. Before receiving any public input on the proposed resolution, staff will give us a brief review of the proposed resolution. Mr. Dean.
Thank you. Thanks again, Madam Mayor. Also during the council meeting on June 10th, it was proposed to hold a public hearing at the August 12th meeting, this meeting, to establish the new rates. With the assistance of Mark Hildebrand Consulting, staff conducted the necessary analysis to identify improvements required to ensure that the wastewater treatment plant and the collection system comply with the California State Water Quality Control Board and Federal Environmental Protection Agency's regulations. The analysis also determined the funding necessary to complete projects associated with those requirements. In accordance with Prop 218, staff mailed approximately 4,850 notices to all parcels connected to city sewer system. At the time of writing this report, we received 8 letters opposing the rate change. I will defer to the city clerk to report any additional responses opposing I would like to note that Mark Hildebrand is also available remotely, and I'm here to answer further questions to the council that the council may have regarding the recommendations. At this point, I'll turn it over to.
Thank you. I would also like to note that the notices for this hearing were also sent to all those entitled to that notice appropriately. So, let's see. City Attorney, do you need to do a brief explanation of anything for this public hearing?
Yeah, yes, I think I'll highlight the difference between what you all just did and what this is, because there are some important differences for those in the audience and also those following along at home. So the notices for this Proposition 218 hearing were sent to the owners and also the customers of the sewer system. And so either one could submit a protest, although only one protest per parcel will be counted. The difference between the counting here and what we're doing and the counting that just happened is that for this hearing, there would need to be a majority protest of the total number of parcels within the city and the customers that Menjo will be able to provide you the number. So instead of a majority being in support, there would need to be a majority who are opposed of the total number. And so when the clerk gets to that stage, it will be a slightly different tabulation that occurs. But the purpose of this is to hear public comment and protests and also submit any written protests that haven't already been submitted. Some were submitted in advance and the clerk has those and will open them when the time comes for that part of this hearing. But they can also be submitted towards the any time before the end of the public comment here this evening. And so if there's anyone who wants to change their vote or who hasn't submitted a protest, now is the time to do that before the public hearing is ended. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now open. If you'd like to make a comment, please state your name and address for the record. If you are a sewer customer, In all fairness, each will be limited to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to make a public a comment on this?
And Madam Mayor, just for the purpose of the record, we did receive a few opposition letters
Yeah.
at the dais as well.
Yeah, so we have the ones that were sent ahead of time that we've reviewed. Is there any other item?
Maggie Meadows again, 247 Aolia Drive. I figure if I'm coming, I hardly ever come to these. I might as well speak on everything. Anyway,
That's right.
I grew up and we raised our kids in Pacifica. In Pacifica, the way our sewer bills were calculated was basically looking at your water use when you're not landscaping, you're not using water for landscaping. So that basically any water use you use, then you can figure it's going to end up in the sewer. And I always thought that was a fair way to figure out our sewer bills. And I don't see that in the city of Auburn. And I just, again, I wanted to send all this out ahead of time. But I'm presenting it to you now as something to consider. Why not try to incorporate that into what you say is on the basis of system use? Because I don't think you actually look at our individual system use, but this is a way to do it. And it would add a little, I think I called once before about that a few years ago. And I think it would take a little bit of administrative chores to get that in line, but it can be done, and it would be a nice fair way for those of us that maybe are gone a lot and aren't here and are still getting charged the same amount no matter how much we use.
Madam Mayor, I was just going to say that maybe if we can just allow all the public comment and then we can have, we can ask staff to expand. And that way we don't have a dialogue going on.
Okay.
We kind of
Sounds good.
did that for the last item, but really that we should just allow public comment and then, well, we can ask our questions of staff. Yeah,
Okay.
but take now,
So-
yeah.
So write down the question so we know.
You got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, so that's the main thing. I just wanted, I know you're gonna have to raise it 5% a year. It adds up quite a bit, especially with interest rates kind of coming down on our savings. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments or comments on this item?
I'm taking notes, Tim.
Dan Watson, 1945 Coyote Court, Auburn. I got this letter and I just have a lot of questions about what's in it. Just because something's going up, I don't think it should automatically pass without some sort of conversation about it. So, looking at the letter and just to be on records, there's a line here. When revenues fall short of expectations, it is not uncommon for capital projects to be deferred. So what was deferred? What are we going for now that we didn't do previously, I guess is question number one. And then I guess the last time rates were adjusted was in 2018. I moved into the city in 2019. So from 2018 till today, has there been a gradual increase in sewer rates? It's been flat. Okay. So is it kind of like all or nothing? You know, we're not raising rates and then, yeah, we got to get on the bandwagon and do it. Kind of question that kind of mentality. Why not a gradual, like as it is over the next 5 years if this thing gets approved, which I gather it is if there's 5,000 letters that went out and there's 8 protests. It sounds like I have a snowball's chance and you know what here at the podium. And also for the record, I want you to know my effluent does not stink. So, but anyway, on this, this table 2, these EDU factors, I need an explanation on that. A single family residential is a 1. And I look at some of these other ones, a school is a 1.0 per 100 students. These seem really kind of skewed. And lift stations, I don't know how many lift stations I have. 1, 2, 3.
11.
Is there a map that shows? And I guess my question is, with a lift station, if I'm at the top of the hill and my effluent flows downhill, and then it has to go up. Is that a lift station for my effluent? Or once it leaves my house and it's on a downhill run, am I free of lift stations? I'd like an explanation on that. And it just seems, I don't know, I hit on it just a minute ago. All of a sudden we're raising prices. And I guess I have a question. Are these rates going to cover the Aola station as well, or project? Are my rates helping fund that no interest loan over there? I don't know. I'd like to know though. So yeah, that's the questions that I have, and I don't know if that's going to be offline or this gentleman's going to answer them all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, seeing none. Mental, you want to answer some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to speak to some of those things and hopefully it makes sense. I'll speak it for the council's benefit. So when the young lady mentioned, why don't we measure our waste by the water usage? That would be really easy for us to do if we controlled the water, but the water within the city of Auburn is controlled by Placer County Water Agency. I can almost guarantee you that if we had to get information back and forth from Placer County Water Agency, we would be paying for their additional staff time, our staff time, and that would almost certainly raise your rates beyond what we're asking for here today. So there's that element of it. Could it be done? Absolutely. Would it be easy? Not necessarily, but the water agency will certainly charge us for all their additional time and documentation and everything required to transfer that information to us on an annual basis. It would take a lot longer for us to convey that on this end and get the information to the county. So unfortunately, it could be done, but it's not necessarily the easiest or most cost-effective way to approach the usage for sewer rates in the city, if that makes sense. Hope it helps.
It sounds like, and some cities do actually control their water sources and their sewer.
Correct.
It's just the city of Auburn does not do that. But you know, I'm sure that Pacifica probably does. They control both the input and the output.
Under San Francisco.
Oh, under San Francisco. Okay. So, yeah.
Then the young man had some questions about the what does the one next to the ADU mean? Well, we have to set a basis of where we're going to start from. We could have choose the one to be a commercial building, but that doesn't necessarily make the most sense. So you look at it, one residential unit, a normal family usage, and then everything else is based off of that and square footage. For, as you mentioned, 1,000 square foot for a business is 0.7 of an ADU, but that business may be 30,000 square feet, or so they're paying significantly more than a residential unit would. It's just a factor associated with it. We've always used this mechanism just because we don't have the ability to get the water usage data, and that's kind of why we went to this. The capital projects, you asked, what needs to be done? I'll tell you right now, we have a significant amount of I&I infiltration into our sewer system, and that needs to be addressed almost immediately. It should have been addressed many, many years ago, but deferred maintenance is kind of one of those things we're dealing with right now, and we are playing a little bit of catch up, and it's unfortunate. And the last time the rates were raised was back in 2018, 2019, as you mentioned, and that's primarily due to COVID. We would have loved to incrementally raise it by a smaller amount over a 5-year period as opposed to what we have to do now. Keep in mind that this year, there's still no rate increase because we have enough monies in our kitty to put out the projects we need for this year, but it's the longer term projects that we have to look at. We are going to need to get upgrades at our wastewater treatment plant, where every year we should be doing at least $750,000 worth of linear infrastructure. So these things add up. And when we look at it from a 10-year period, we're like, what is it going to cost the city at the end of this to accomplish all these projects? So that's where that dollar amount came from. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add before we continue much longer in the discussion, perhaps one last call for protests and then closing the public hearing to continue the discussion.
Okay. Are there any more protests that would like to be submitted before we close the public hearing? This is the last call for those. Okay, then we'll be closing the public hearing. And then do we need to do the clerk before we do?
Yeah, well, if Menjel has any other remaining comments.
One thing I do want to point out, the gentleman also asked about the future rates covering the project that we just discussed. That's not the case at all. The future rates that are coming in are going to address projects in the future. We currently have the monies in our kitty to cover the project on Aeolia, and that's what we're going to do with that. And these folks will pay them back over time. This is independent of that.
There are also some risks associated with having that situation in Aeolia, that environmental hazards and things like that, that we're trying to make sure we're mitigating so that there aren't any additional risks for the city, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the deciding factor why the city had to get involved. And I'd like to thank the residents and the council for pushing for this. That line is close to catastrophic failure, which would cost the city and the residents an incredible amount of money, well beyond the $500,000 mark. So there's a benefit in doing it this way.
Yeah, so yes, we're putting the money out, but we're doing it because it's going to end up mitigating any
Potential risks, absolutely.
Long-term.
I'll leave it at
Okay.
that.
Thank you. Okay, so then at the close of, okay, so there's no more further public comment. I close the public hearing, and I am also informing the public that the period for the receipt of written protest and on the proposed sewer rates and charge by the city is also closed. If needed, we could take a break, but I think that you've tabulated already. Okay, so we're gonna move to the clerk and her tabulation.
There are a total number of 4,842 sewer service accounts within the city. The number of written protests received and tallied is 12, which does not constitute a majority protest.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The council and the staff discussion may occur at this time. The council may deliberate any proposed changes to the resolution so long as the changes are less costly to the customer. City attorney will advise on any proposed changes to the resolution as recommended by the council.
Some additional questions.
There were some additional questions. One of the speakers asked, what projects were deferred? Because we talked about that we deferred some projects, so.
The biggest one is the linear infrastructure. We have issues. And these monies will help us to address it. There's also some things that are necessary at the wastewater treatment plant. We have to upgrade. Energy costs have gone through the roof. To keep things running there, we need to either upgrade our solar array that's there or put in new infrastructure that's going to support it. There's equipment that's required to keep the wastewater treatment plant running. There's a variety of things, and I would love to share it with you. If you want more detail, I can certainly give you that. But in the report, it outlines all the projects that are planned over the next 5 years and well beyond as well.
And then he asked a question about lift stations. We have 11 lift stations throughout the city. Is that right?
10.
10. We have 10 lift stations, and they work in conjunction with just moving effluent.
Right. So
from one point to another. So
if your property happens to lie below natural gravity, to your point, you will have to use a lift station. Some areas of South Auburn have to utilize 2 lift stations, but a majority of the city has no lift stations on it just because they're at a location where it can just gravity flow to our Ophir plant.
And then there was also a question just about the fact that we haven't raised rates since 2018. There wasn't a need to raise those rates, but just the question was, why didn't we gradually start assessing as opposed to waiting now? So we had no increases since 2018, and now it's 2024. And actually, this would not be a rate that's effective this fiscal year. It'd be the following fiscal year. So there'd be no increases to rates this year. It's the following fiscal year. So if you want to just speak to the fact that almost not quite 10 years that we had no rate increases.
So the best way to answer this is under the direction of previous city manager. He didn't see the necessary need to pursue the 218 process at that time. And we had enough monies to fulfill the projects that we were trying to accomplish within that time period. We're now well outside of that time period, and we're starting to look at the cost of doing projects escalate. So did we wait? Yes, perhaps we should have, but I think looking at it now, it just has to happen at this point. We would have loved to have done it sooner. Unfortunately, we weren't there. And the timing for doing certain projects weren't necessarily good during the pandemic because of the additional cost of doing things at that time. So
the construction costs were so much higher during COVID. And so it didn't make a lot of sense and I know that the city has been taking a sharper look at what what the cost of doing service is to ensure that we are able to get sufficient funding to ensure that those costs can be covered. You know, if we're able to cut costs, I'm all for that, absolutely. But I also want to ensure that we are collecting sufficient funds and fees to perform the services that we're required to by law. You know, so that we're not subsidizing any certain group or what have you. In this instance, this is the sewer enterprise. So, you know, everyone that's on the city sewer system is paying. You know, I will say that, you know, I do honestly like the idea of, but I understand it's incredibly cumbersome and so forth, but of taking a look at what their water usage is. And, but that would mean that every single person would have a separate rate, and we would have to do an analysis every year, because things change sufficiently and you would not be able to ensure that you're recovering enough cost. You could have a larger home, 5-bedroom home with 2 people living in it, and the next year it's sold to a family of 6. And so, clearly that family would be utilizing the sewer system more than the family of 2. So it's something that would have to be done. And it would be easier if we did control the water, you know, but I think that what I would be interested in, just for my own information, because I think that it is a fair way to assess a fee, is to actually know what the actual usage is. What I would like to do the next time around, because I recognize that it's going to be a very time consuming and cumbersome process, but I'd like to see what would it cost and how much time would that be? So just having some discussions with PCWA and, you know, what would that even look like, so that when we get that question and, you know, the next time, we would be able to answer with all fairness as to why, you know.
And I'd like to piggyback on that. I think that's, you know, that's a taken point that, you know, we never really have looked into. And I also think it's a well taken, you know, that, you know, these rates, we have to look at our projects and look very strictly at what we are doing in the future. And I'm hoping that, you know, in 5 years, we won't have to raise them again. So, you know, again, I concur that we should look at every option. It's everything's on the table, and that is a fair way. So I appreciate the input, and I also appreciate the study, and so that's where I'm at.
So that would, I think, like I said, for the next time we look at this, at least having that information available and just knowing that,
It's a fairness.
yeah, for fairness purposes, just knowing what the cost would be and knowing what that would do to rates too, because if PCWA would say, well, our surcharge would be, you know, $6,000 per house or something, then that obviously.
Yeah, we've developed a good enough relationship with the staff at PCWA to start that dialogue to see what that would look like, and we're happy to bring that back to you for your consideration.
And yeah, and I think that it is a longer discussion. So I understand we've already undergone this particular fee study, and we're trying, you know, but for subsequent, to have that information. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think for long-term too, I mean, there's ways that with utilities, you can do cost of service studies in lots and lots of different ways. But it might be helpful to kind of know, do similar entities that don't have water calculate the same way, or how do we do it differently? And then also you can kind of do some, I thought the comment about like, why is a house is one, I get, but why are those other multipliers different and how off are they? I wonder if we could do some spot checking to see how far off they are, or if our calculations are kind of in the right ballpark on them. You know, you don't have to do everything, but maybe you check a sum and get kind of an idea whether they're in the right ballpark or not. So there might be some ways of kind of doing some spot checking of our numbers just to make sure that we have the right basis points and that we're doing best practice for what the industry does.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is start the analysis period of this process a little earlier next time, so we can delve into some alternatives and look at more information and present it to the council for your consideration.
Sounds great. Is there anything else that the council would like to bring forward?
Also just want to say, you know, I respect the fact that, you know, utility rates have increased. Everything is just skyrocketing, and it's really frustrating. And I appreciate folks that are on fixed incomes, and this is just one more thing, it's so difficult and, and the cost of treating effluent, it has just skyrocketed. The state of California has just introduced so many strict rules and regulations on how we treat effluent and it becomes incredibly expensive for us. So, I feel for folks. I understand. I mean, we've all got these cell phone bills. I mean, utility bills are just skyrocketed and it's a very difficult thing. And I wish that we had lots of extra money that we could help defray costs, but we just are struggling ourselves as a city.
And one of the things that we haven't even considered yet is the effects of 1383 on what we're going to do with our waste when 2025, 2026 comes around. So these are all things that were factored into this report. And to your point, Madam Mayor and Council, we're not happy to raise rates, but we just know it's one of those things that absolutely had to be done given our circumstance and the projects that we have to accomplish because of the State Water Board. So.
Yes. It's an unfortunate thing that all utilities are having to raise rates right now in order to be able to continue that level of service that is needed for our residents.
Yeah, we're all affected by it because
Yeah.
everyone here is
Yep.
members of the city.
So thank you so much for your work on this. I know it takes a lot of effort to do those rate assessments and to make sure that you're being diligent and cost effective with our funds. So we appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, with no further matter to be discussed on the rates and charges by the council, I hereby close the public hearing. And I'm going to ask the council if they would like to take action on the resolution for setting rates and charges for waste.
By resolution, I'd like to have established a new sewer service charge and sewer connection charges. Establish the new sewer charges.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Without any further discussion, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
All right.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. All right, the resolution is hereby adopted. All right, and I am going to have us take a 5-minute break.
Oh, yes,
I
thank
need
you.
one. Sorry, but we need a 5-minute break. So thank you.
We are pretty close, but yeah. Oh, we still have. Yes.
All right.
Oh, are you? Yeah, well, she really works. Yeah, I know she worked for the police.
Hey, Deborah. Can you mute?
Okay.
Item is the first item on council business, the Domes Infill Acceleration Project.
Yes, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I was really trying to think of something funny that went along with the sewer theme that's been like dominating this whole evening, but nothing was appropriate, so I'll just leave it there. So if you recall, we've had a number of meetings and updates on this. I think the last one was we issued a contract with AECom for the Domes Infill Acceleration Project. We had a very short window of time to try to spend down some grant funds because we weren't sure what the state's budget was going to look like and wasn't sure what that was going to leave us with. So we got through this kind of initial, I mean, AECom did an amazing job of gathering data, getting things put together and just rolling with this thing right up until June 30th. And so we're still moving forward because now the SACOG has told us that we have the majority of our grant was preserved. So we still have enough in the budget for the scope that was identified by AECom to complete that. So everything's moving forward, but we just decided as we move through this, we would kind of involve the council a little bit more, explain where we are, what we're doing. It's kind of a high profile project. And I do want to let you know that we have been working with Shauna Purvines from the county. She's been on our kind of development team. We haven't had her at a lot because lately our meetings have been not coinciding. Well, we haven't actually had any meetings for the past couple of weeks. So it's been a little bit since she was involved, but she is part of those and has been working with this as part of the steering group and identifying information that they'd like to see come out. Again, I would like to kind of identify this is a very unique property. It is a very transit-centric property. You have the transit hub right there. It's one of the few places, well, it's the only place in Auburn that qualifies for the parking exemption through the state's requirements. Not that we're looking at doing that. We're obviously looking at developing a full-scale project for the site. But it does have those elements and those qualities. It's also, and I'm not going to try to steal his thunder too much, but it's very centrally located to Old Town downtown. So it allows walkability and a lot of other things, as well as, you know, all the shopping opportunities that are only a couple blocks away, DMV, the post office and so forth. So I rambled. I will turn it over to Matthew Gerken from AECom, who's going to actually explain what they've been doing in much greater detail than that. Yeah. Is it on?
Mayor, members of the council, city manager, fantastic staff. Thanks for taking a few minutes to hear about an update on this project, and please interrupt me as I go along. I'm looking for any questions, any feedback, any input to move the project ahead. I'm going to talk a little bit about the project itself. I'll try to avoid the things that Jonathan already mentioned, existing conditions that are relevant for redevelopment of this site, a little bit about the economics of the site, and then some development concepts, what possibly could fit on this site. So I think Jonathan and I covered most of this. Really, let me just mention that we set this project up to sort of think like a developer on behalf of the city. So to try to accomplish the public interest, but think like a developer would about feasible development on this site in order to promote infill development of it right by transit. Here's more of the project objectives, ultimately to come up with some kind of master plan that enjoys consensus among stakeholders, among this decision-making body and planning commission about what could be appropriate on that site, and provide an example for what infill development could look like in Auburn looking forward with a focus on housing. This is just the project schedule. We're in the green box all the way to the left at the beginning. We'll be talking to stakeholders, refining our concepts, coming up with an environmental and regulatory strategy, and complete the work in summer 2025. So existing conditions, as Jonathan mentioned, we've gathered a lot of data it's all important to thinking about the physical design of the site as well as the economics of the site. So this little aerial shows what's there today. The dotted boundary on the outside, that's the overall parcel. It's 17.5 acres. I believe that's right. 17.5 acres. We're really focused on the solid red line within that. We're not thinking about the Auburn Garden Theater going away, the library going away, or anything else. We're focused on the kind of the south western side of what you see on this slide. We think a lot about open space in terms of amenitizing a site, making it attractive for development. That's important. So this map is highlighting those areas. There's a nice mature tree canopy on the southwestern side of the site in particular. Topography is important on this site. I'm just a flatlander from central Iowa, so what do I know about topography? But it's important for development costs. It's important for views and things like that. So there's a 26-foot change actually in total grade. So we've mapped all that out and taken that into account into our little models. Surrounding land use environment, critically important. If there's housing on this site, for example, that would be great because it's walkable to grocery, post office, other retail services, school, parks, you know, just about everything you need is right there in walking distance. More on transportation. As I mentioned, walking distance to a variety of destinations. It also has existing vehicular access, good regional vehicular access to 49 and 80, short drive or a long walk to downtown or Old Town. Focused in on the site, it's got 2 access points, one from the south there you see at the bottom of the slide here, and one existing access point here. If we can just continue to use those access points in redevelopment of the site, that could help to reduce the overall development costs as well. So that's something we're thinking about. As Jonathan intimated, it's got great transit access for those even who want to leave their car and behind and head to Sacramento, Emeryville, Oakland, points along the Capitol Corridor, as well as Placer County Transit Service right there. Walkability, there's some pedestrian access in the vicinity. There are some also minor, really straight ahead improvements that could really enhance pedestrian access in this area. We'll be piggybacking with ongoing efforts on active transportation planning the city's already got going to pick up recommendations there and make sure that that's consistent with our recommendations ultimately. As I mentioned, here's another way to look at distance, walkability, bikeability to important destinations. And so in summary, what I've just stated in terms of existing conditions and what's important for planning of this site, proximity to services, destinations, transit service, relatively small building footprints on site, which makes demo costs relatively lower. There's some grade changes. There's some mature trees to consider. There's existing, maybe most importantly here, which your public works director helped us to understand. There's existing infrastructure right adjacent to the site that could serve a future development there. On to the economics basically of development. So we like to find comparables. So we looked out on the landscape. We try to find comparables for, you know, how on the housing side, what we could think about in terms of rents, what we could think about in terms of sales prices for development on this site, gather that together. Notice that vacancy rates have been dropping for multifamily in Auburn. That suggests that there's an increasing demand, less vacancy than in the county currently. Relatively strong demand for multifamily in surrounding communities, but not so much has been developed in Auburn. The pandemic has looked to have affected other areas more than Auburn. So we collect all that information, factor it into what we call a static pro forma model. This is supposed to be simulates, not stimulates economic conditions. Sorry about that. Basically, we were looking at total development costs, total revenues from a project. Does it work? And one way to do that is to make all those calculations and figure out if you take all the costs out, you look at the value of the project in terms of rents and sales price or sales price. Do you have enough money left to pay for the land, residual land value? And if that is enough to fit with market costs for land, then you might have a feasible project. This slide has lots and lots of numbers that basically are the details for what I just explained. We've looked at 2 different scenarios, which I'll highlight on a slide in a minute. We found that actually both of them could be potentially feasible. And the bottom line is here, residual land value. Those residual land values per acre seem to fit with what market rate for property might be right now in the private marketplace. So here are the key findings. As I mentioned, both scenarios, which I'll describe in a minute, look to be feasible right now. If, and here's kind of the big if, well, we're assuming, we're assuming financing costs that are more normal than they are today. I think actually a member of the council just observed that, or no, maybe a member of your public body observed that interest rates seem to be calming down. We've noticed the same thing. So we didn't want to build into our assumptions crazy, super high cost of money. We wanted to look at something more normal to, present more reliable results here. But here's the big if construction costs increase more than development becomes infeasible, or if the capitalization rate, the relative risk compared to return changes, the scenarios could become infeasible. But right now they're feasible, and this is very exciting, at least to me. And what's feasible? Well, we looked at two scenarios based on input from city staff and our experts. Both of them are around the same densities, around 30 units an acre. The primary difference between them is that one scenario, the one on the right here, it has townhomes on this part of the site, just 3-story for sale townhomes, 20 of them, and the rest is multi-family. The first scenario is all 3-story multifamily buildings with interior parking, keeping the open space around the exterior of the site, keeping the existing access points, a spot even for community gathering, maybe even a spot for, community scale or transit-oriented retail development. All these features shown on this slide. The red boldface language is just to communicate that this is not, a proposal, a recommendation. We're just trying to get an idea of what can fit on the site, reasonably considering market conditions, so that we can back that up into the pro forma analysis that I showed you on previous slides. I'll just mention, actually, I'll let your curiosity dictate what else I talk about, if anything. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and I'm here the rest of the night to entertain questions and take your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. We really appreciate your time. I was just going to ask a quick question. All of this is, it looked like multifamily and townhome. We're trying to do more mixed use in other parts of town. Was it considered looking at mixed use versus just going all residential?
That was a question I had too, Madam Mayor.
When we first started this project, we were trying to go with a mixed use scenario. Looking at the existing conditions surrounding the site with the amount of commercial that's already there, it was decided that there just wasn't enough market there. That's why they're really focusing on some type of commercial development there, but it's really going to be oriented towards the residents of the whatever is developed there and the surrounding properties. It really wasn't going to draw much because there's already so much going on around there and they didn't want to oversaturate.
Okay, thank you. Are
Hope
there
I
other,
did that correctly. Good.
Councilman Amar?
Yes, so I guess I'm a little confused. I was trying to follow you, but so on scenario 2, I'm looking at this here, this green here. Scenario 2, that's a mix of townhomes for sale and 3-story stack flats for rent. And if I can read it right, there are 20 townhomes and 216 3-story flat for rent. And and then so the revenue would be 99,000 and 12,000. Excuse me, 99 million and 12 million. And the cost is pretty close. So I guess I don't understand. So who you're going to get a company? Is that what I'm just really confused. A company would come in and do this and do this Or is the county, is it the city or the county? or-
Excellent question. That should have been factored into the background on this project. Yes, the county owns the property now, and Jonathan will correct me if I say anything wrong here, but it's a voluntary collaborative effort at this point in time.
Yes.
Our expertise, working with the city on regulatory, economics, transportation, with the county's mutual agreement that, yes, we can take a look at this. We can look at development feasibility scenarios for this site. And like Jonathan mentioned, the county has been involved in our project meetings along the way. But go to your question of what's the ultimate disposition of the property and who takes what role, who's a equity partner, who's a developer, who's the builder. Yeah, all that can be in different scenarios. There are cities that like I'm working with the city of West Sacramento right now. They own and have been purchasing some motel properties along West Capitol Boulevard, and they will issue a request for interest among the development community. And based on the responses, then they'll sign an agreement to exclusive negotiating rights with that development company. And the city has its criteria: must build 50 units, must have 5 acres of open, whatever they might be.
Okay.
And the developer says, we think we could do that. And then they come to an agreement, and the city might sell the property for X amount, $1, go through Surplus Lands Act requirements in a joint development fashion. Or it could just be put the property out for development without that sort of joint development kind of arrangement. Lots of different scenarios,
Okay.
maybe some that I haven't even thought about
No, I
could work.
appreciate that background. Thank you.
I think
And,
that
and then so just in reading this chart here, and it looks like if the townhomes would go for sale approximately, I mean, I'm just trying to get an idea. I can't see how much they would be.
We don't know.
I don't know yet.
You don't know, I mean, you have.
Yeah, on this scenario, it's 600K per unit,
See that.
assumed sales price for the set townhomes, yeah.
Okay.
And then those other
rent-
figures are
rent
values.
Is what, $473?
That's the value over time of rents. I don't remember the per unit rents that we assumed. Might be able to find that for
Okay,
you.
just trying to get a feel of what type of affordable housing this is.
Let me report back to you on what we've assumed for rents, how that compares to what your housing element says on affordability. I think that's a great question, but I just don't have the numbers
Okay.
committed to memory.
Great, thank you. And then just one last question is, so you're not leaning towards scenario 1 or 2. This is just out there. Okay.
I mean, all of my children are the most beautiful children, and scenario 1 and 2 are both great.
Okay.
But, honestly, these are just what seemed realistic to us and given the constraints, but I would be totally open-minded to other suggestions as well as the mixed use concept. And like Jonathan mentioned, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of room and rents compared to construction costs for retail or commercial service right now on this site, in this vicinity. But hey, things can change on a dime sometime.
I do appreciate that. I understand about commercial and it's difficult now. So, and then there is a lot of commercial around there. So I appreciate you looking into that though.
Councilman Holmes?
Yes, a more basic question. Where does discussions stand as far as with the county?
Councilman Holmes, can you provide a little more as far as what you're referring to? I mean, we have the county participating with us in this analysis.
Yeah, so is the county giving up that land or?
We have had conversations with them that we don't care who ends up doing it, whether it's the county or whether they decide to turn it over to us. It's entirely up to them. And they're not even clear on their long-term plans for the site. We're really just trying to get a concept out there, an idea that they can use to say, okay, we understand that we have built this other facility in North Auburn, and maybe this is a really good value for the community and for that property.
So what's going to happen when the domes is put on the National Register of Historic Places?
That would come out in the environmental analysis. as
So
to
a lot of this,
And I knew you were going to say that. So what you haven't seen is that it was actually proposed as a phased approach. So the annex is phase one, and then phase two was going to be whatever happens at the dome site, if anything.
That would be just the dome building, not the other building next to it.
Right.
And they haven't started that process.
But again, we have to analyze everything in the environmental. So one of the things is the
Mm.
cultural significance and historic resources. So
Mm.
we're not there yet. So I can't even talk about it really, but
Mm.
it is something that I'm aware of. And there's some
Yeah.
sensitivity there, obviously.
And the county
And-
hasn't given any dates on when they're planning on leaving that facility anyway.
If they're even planning on leaving it, they've been very clear that they don't know what the future holds. So we are just going through this project, like I said, in a phased approach, being mindful of the domes and whether they're going to use it and the sensitivity there. But we did want to show initially what that full scale development could look like if they were to relocate out of the site. And it really goes to penciling and figuring out how it's going to work and cost.
I think that this whole project is basically a lot of like what ifs, right? So if the county decided to move, what could we do there? If the domes was taken down, what would that look like? If the city was in charge of the property, this is what we could do there. It's a layered kind of a thing with a bunch of assumptions. None of those assumptions are happening right now. The county hasn't given us any idea of that they're going to be moving out anytime soon. In fact, they said that they're as of right now, they're not intending to move out anytime soon. And there has been an application submitted to put the domes on the historic register. So how that process follows through, I don't know yet. But the idea for us is we don't want to be caught where county's deciding to move out. We have nothing planned there at all. And then all of a sudden we just get what we get. We want to be a little bit more kind of forward thinking that having something at least on paper that this is what you could do, Mr. Developer or county or city or whatever.
And this is a much more detailed analysis than the back of the napkin stuff that, could be happening. I mean, they are really significantly looking into the economics of different scenarios and have gathered a ton of information. As you saw in the presentation there, we are very early in this process. So everything that we're sharing is very preliminary. So.
Is that all you had, Councilman Holmes?
what's that?
Are you done with your questions, Councilman Holmes?
I haven't done it.
Well, I'm trying to digest what he just said. So,
It looks like Councilwoman Sierra Sammons has something. Can she go?
yeah, yes.
Get your thoughts together. Just, very happy to see these what ifs. I mean, I'm at the domes like once every other month, if that. And every now and then there are staff there that think what this could be. And I'm actually really excited to see that if it were to happen, if the stars align and everything goes to plan, just to see that, because there is a need for housing. We know that. I do appreciate keeping the library, that whole space on the north end virtually untouched. Because at the end of the day, it's a beautiful piece of property.
And those amenities really add to the value of the site.
Absolutely. So I would love to see something like that if it goes that way. So thank you for the work that was
I
done
will
on
note
this.
the county has been pretty excited as going through this process and we haven't had any
Pushback.
Yeah.
Realizing the significance, especially with transit right there and how walkable it is.
Yeah.
Just they're looking at it the same way we are.
Right. And I do appreciate the question about why mixed use wasn't pursued, but yeah,
It was pursued.
or at least
Consider
considered. But I've been in that area quite a bit. I live on pretty much that side of town, and yeah, I don't see it being as successful as these projects. Thank you.
Councilwoman?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
I did have a couple comments. So thank you very much. And again, I think it's important to note a couple of things. Number one, that all of this great planning was done through a grant that was provided by SACOG. So no city dollars were utilized in the development of this particular plan. And as we move forward, so grateful for that. And thank you to SACOG. This is exactly the kind of project that fits within that Green Means Go category. So good news on that. And again, this is county property. So we don't know exactly what will happen, but, housing is something we know. We have our RENA numbers. we can say that we can build housing in certain areas, but is it really going to happen in those areas? That's difficult, but here is an area where we can provide additional housing. You know, we talk about wanting additional businesses like we hear about all the time, Trader Joe's, things like that. And those kinds of businesses that are so attractive to folks really only come when there are enough rooftops to support them. And so it's important that we look at that as well. You know, when we look at different kinds of diversifying our revenue streams and so forth and our businesses that come in. So, you know, certainly appreciate all the work that's gone into this and hopefully, you know, we'll have a good result at the end of the day when the county decides to move back out to DeWitt, which we just don't even have a timetable for that because they would need to construct their own building, right, for admin. So who knows, but at least we have something on the table, you know, for when that comes up. So thank you.
Are there any more comments? This was just an informational item, so we don't need any motions on this one.
And we will keep you apprised as things go on. So a couple more months, 6 months, we'll come back around and show you where we're at.
Thank you so much for letting us know what you've been working on.
Thank you.
We appreciate all your work.
Yep, one of the many planning projects. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our second item for council business, the reestablishment of the Auburn Youth Commission. This was actually something that I wanted to bring back that Councilwoman Amara brought with me. Mainly because we've talked about including youth. We kind of added a couple youth to a couple of the different committees within the city. But really where this kind of hit home with me was one of the main organizations that really was helpful to me in my high school years. It was a completely student-run organization and it recently closed because student organizations have really been hit hard during COVID. Most of them are formed and run by students, and the COVID years had made it so there's no older students to teach the younger students how to keep that organization going, and they've been collapsing a lot lately. I've seen it even with our 4-H camp that I was volunteering with this year. All of the institutional memory of what those kids were supposed to be teaching the younger kids how to run the camp was all completely gone, and we had to kind of step in and reteach them how to do things. So I think it's important that we create as many opportunities for our youth to be involved in things and to learn how things operate. In addition, it's really important to have that civic involvement and to get that feedback from the youth on what's important to them and how we can best serve them, because they are a large part of our community as well. So when I brought this up, our clerk reminded me that there had been a Auburn Youth Advisory Commission in the past. So we basically just used the previous resolution that created that. That was it was an annual thing that had to be renewed. So we're going to just make it a permanent. The suggestion is to make this be a permanent commission, partially because once you get it going, you don't want it to be up for in order to get that involvement, you need to know it's an ongoing thing and not that it's going to at any moment be dissolved by the council without, you know, that I guess that each year it doesn't have to be reapproved, that it's going to be an ongoing thing unless the council decides not to do it. The one thing that I did want to amend on the resolution that's in front of the council is if you look on the second page, originally this was created to have members from Placer High School, E.V. Kane, Auburn Boys and Girls Club, and Auburn Recreation District specifically, and then also other organizations. Because there's so many changes going on with our school system right now with the different K-8s, and also the Boys and Girls Club has shifted since then. I just crossed out the staff and students of Placer High School, E.V. Kane Middle School, the Auburn Boys and Girls Club, and the Auburn Recreation District and other. So it just reads that it is the intent of the city council to accomplish a diverse membership representing schools and organizations which serve young people of the community. I thought that kind of encompassed it all without having to be specific.
Thank you, because that was going to be the first thing to suggest, because I was like, nope, that doesn't work anymore.
Yep.
That's not
So this,
fair.
the staff just copied it over. And so that was the thing that I was kind of recommending, was that we do that. All the details of how the application will work and everything are, I was trying to get this up and going before the school year started. So I was going to volunteer to put together the application and kind of work on the guidelines. I also was going to recommend that the first round of students also work a little bit on the mission and vision and projects that are involved in this. So giving a little bit more flexibility versus rigidity in the beginning, so we can really make sure that it suits the needs of the youth and what they want to do versus us trying to dictate to the youth what they should really be working on, because I think they have a better understanding than we do. So that's kind of what I was suggesting, is that we put the Youth Advisory Commission back in place using this resolution. I would help create the application process. We would get that out to the high school, middle school students and those organizations that might want to be involved, because we're going to have other members, adult members as well from different groups. And then we would bring back to the council the membership and also any of the further details around what the Youth Commission would be doing and things like that moving forward. So that was my suggestion, and I wanted to open it up to the council for your thoughts.
I'd like to say that I think it's an excellent idea. Is this the resolution that we had before? I mean, close to it?
Yeah, it's very close.
Okay.
This is actually, I think, the exact one from 2006.
Yeah, there's just a couple of small
There's
changes
just a
I made.
couple of tweaks, and
Yeah.
so that's why I took out the one section from.
And it's only 1 year though, right?
We do a 1 year, and then they can reapply if they want to. And I would imagine that we would prioritize new people getting experience but we
Yeah.
can decide that later.
Okay. Well, I just have to say, I think it's an excellent idea. I mean, how can we be against this youth? I mean, they're going to be our city council people of the future, our public works person, city manager. It's an important part, and I support this 100%. I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to this starting before the school year.
Thank you. That's one down for you.
So I have some questions. So thank you very much. When I became mayor, it was important, and you and I kind of worked on the project to get some of our youth on our commission, on our existing committees and commissions. And at the time, we did that because we thought that we didn't want to have extra staff time spent on this. And it really is it can be very time consuming for staff. As you know, my daughter served on the Placer County Youth Commission for 2 years. That was a 2-year term. I mean, 1 year, but a 2-year max. And I saw firsthand how much time and energy the 2 staff from the Department of Human Services put forth for that. They really, they were dedicated staff and a lot of work. And so I was concerned about that, what kind of impact that would have on the city staff. We have a limited number of people. The county has got a lot more people. And with our budget and so forth, that was a concern. Now, I know you've indicated that you're willing to step up and take that role, and so that staff would not have to do anything. And I appreciate that. From you, Madam Mayor, because I do know that this is going to be a laborious, but a labor of love, if you will. And so I can be supportive of that, because we are looking at having yourself, and you had also talked about having other adults serve on the commission. We kind of talked about that. And so I wanted to know, I wasn't sure if we should add that to the resolution, because
It's on.
so, so I looked at number 2, for example, eligibility, any resident of the greater Auburn area who will be it says who will be of middle or high school age. And then 2, or involved. Those are the 2 criteria. So we talk about, there's 2 different branches. You have students, and then we have adults.
Directing, who
Yeah.
will be directed at
So,
youth.
so then did we want to talk about the breakdown, that there would be 5 students and 4 adults?
I thought that maybe we could look at the application, see who applies, and kind of make that determination. I have had several members of the community reach out to me already and say that they'd like to be involved, even if they aren't selected as the actual members of the committee
Mhm.
or the commission. They would come to the meetings and help with the directing of the commission as well.
Mhm.
So I think that I kind of want to see who applies, because I would hate to put too much weight on one or the other and then have vacant seats when people want to be involved. So I'm kind of
Waiting to see the
waiting
application.
the
Okay.
applications, and then we can make that decision when we put them in.
That's fair. The other thing is it says middle or high school, and were you thinking of maybe just really having this directed for high school kids, just given the maturity level?
Once again, probably mostly high school, but I didn't want to totally if an eighth grader really wants to be involved, we have an empty spot. I didn't want to count out middle school just in case, because there are two different, well,
Mhm.
there's three different schools now in our, that have those.
Mhm.
So I think that's why I'm trying to kind of see where, especially in the first year when we're trying to kind of get it out quickly,
Mhm.
see where things kind of land. And then maybe if we need to make tweaks in the second year or make changes, I totally am open to kind of seeing how
Mhm.
things work and then.
And sometimes that happens with these ordinances that establish our committees. For example, they'll go through one period and then, we'll have to amend them just based on, a variety of different issues that maybe weren't considered at the time they were first established. So I can appreciate that. I did note that number 4, it says the commission shall cease to exist on July 1, 2025.
That needs to be taken out as well. You're right, because we were this was supposed to be an ongoing, and in the original resolution, they had to re-up it every year. It
Yeah,
was not.
so just that sentence, because I think it's important to say commission members shall serve without compensation and shall incur no cost. I think that still needs to
Yep.
stay, but that first.
Sentence
Yeah.
can leave. Okay.
So I just wanted to raise that to your attention since I know
Sure.
you had indicated that wasn't the
Thank
intent.
you.
And these are meetings that are subject to the Brown Act. And there are a lot of the devil's in the details with regards to how often they meet and so forth. I do appreciate again that, you're willing to take this on. I know it's going to be a lot of work and help out. And, I'm happy to be a speaker. I have helped I lent my hand at the Placer County Youth Commission too. I would speak to the kids on occasion. But I do appreciate that. This is something that's important. Our youth are our leaders, our future leaders. And I really like having the adults on there as well. I just would hope we wouldn't have a majority of adults.
No,
I'm hoping it would be a majority of the kids.
Yep.
The other thing I know that just having spoken with the other advisors for the Placer County Youth Commission is that they really had to advertise to get kids interested. Placer High School didn't even have one student on the Placer County Youth Commission this year.
We have 2 in sustainability.
Yeah, and that's great. I'm just saying that we really have to get the word out. It has to be, really work hard. I appreciate that this isn't just focused on our school, kids that are going to school here, that we're opening up to kids that might be going to other schools, other places.
Homeschool, other types of. Yep.
Yes, but they're residents here. So I appreciate that too. And I thank you for that. So,
And the goal also is to have them do some kind of presentation at the end of the school year on the
Mhm.
project that they did. So we'll see if we. can
yeah,
make-
and that's always fun to have them, I know when my daughter presented before the Board of Supervisors, the supervisors really enjoyed that and hearing back from the kids. And so there's a lot of opportunity here. And again, because this is something that there will be on the adults as opposed to staff that I can get behind and support. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I do have some suggestions.
Okay.
On this, saying that I have the most recent experience working with the kids as a school board member. Also, I am a current advisor for the Kiwanis Ski Club at the high school. Their club rush is this Friday. So it's like, oh, this would have been good. I'm thinking on item 3, 9 members plus the city council, that's a lot. A lot of the times, the bigger the group, the less gets done because there's more talking and not really, and it takes a lot longer to get to a consensus. My suggestion would be to have it to 8. So you would have 7 members and then the 1 city council member. That would be.
But I think maybe you want to try and include a lot of kids, give them experience.
But I actually think that total number includes the adult members.
Yeah, but
Maybe
so
5 kids and 4 adults or something like.
yeah,
5 kids,
so 5 and 4 maybe,
Yeah,
but
because the adults are going to have to really run the program. And so you need to have enough adults.
but if this is a youth commission,
Yes, but the youth,
then you're going to have issues with the adults not coming to consensus. I've had the experience of seeing
Yeah.
that.
Well,
I'm just saying if you, just, I'm not saying knock it down, but just consider not having as many people in the room because you got 10 people, you got 10 points of view.
Your point
Yeah.
is taken.
Yeah.
I get that.
And then for eligibility,
just so that we keep in mind that we do have a separation of church and state, I'd like to remove ministry.
Okay. I think that generally youth
They would be under,
organizations.
they would probably
can't cover
serve more under social services anyway,
Where am I looking?
but number 2. So teaching and social services and other activities directed at young people.
Yep, I'm,
Just so that we
That's fine.
steer clear of any
sounds good.
concerns.
I'm good with that. I think I would like to try it at the number it is, and if it doesn't work out, then we'll amend it the following year and we'll do a kind of a trial and error
Yeah.
type of a.
And I'm happy to help, seeing that I've been an advisor for 3 years now.
Okay.
So
Sounds great.
I'll make a
Councilman Holmes, did you have anything to add before we?
Well, yes, I also agree that 10 members may be too large a group, and where would they meet? And
They'll meet here,
here?
room 10, I would imagine.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they'll meet at the high school if there's a majority of them that are there, but I would imagine since we have, these are our facilities, we can read the Rose Room, we can read at room 10.
How
so
about
that-
St. Joseph's?
We would meet in this, it's a city commission, so we want to meet in the city of Auburn. Oh, you mean the church?
Oh, the church community center, St. Joseph's right
St.
here.
Teresa's.
Oh,
That is city limits.
oh,
so-
okay. Oh, that.
You might be
not-
thinking St.
I'm
Teresa's.
thinking yes, I'm thinking St. Joseph School.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
meet here, don't
so yes, so all of our committees and commissions meet here for the most part, so I would imagine they would meet here.
Well, this is any resident of greater Auburn area.
Yes, because some of the students in Placer don't live within the city limits. They live outside of the city limits, but they attend at Placer High School. So we don't want to limit it to folk, if they go to school here, but they don't live in the city limits, we don't want to say they're excluded.
Yeah.
Like your Bowman kids, they'll go, well, most of them go to Placer.
So, yeah, but yeah, we'll have to figure it out, but I would imagine since most of our committees and commissions meet here, we would just meet here in one of the rooms and we would, I would guess meet on a monthly basis at this point, but we will figure out those details a little bit more as we go.
Okay, and you're intending to be the city council member?
Yeah, because I've volunteered to run the, so we don't impact city staff. I've volunteered to run the group and help to organize it and keep us on task. And so I volunteered since I wanted to put this together to be the council
So
member.
you're gonna tell them about the Brown Act and all the other.
We'll have probably a first lesson on Brown Act and how meetings work. And so there's going to be, I would imagine there's going to be regular meetings, but there's also going to be some educational activities and team building activities and things that we would do as well as kind of a kickoff.
Well, I was involved with it when it was originally set up in 2006. So, and I thought it was disappointing that when it disbanded. So I'm glad to see that it's starting up again. And have you talked to the county youth commission at all?
No.
I can give you their names, the two staff people. I was going to say, I would highly recommend because they can give you lots of resources.
Yeah.
So you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But we can do that off.
There are tons, I've done lots of research online. There are tons of youth commissions with lots of suggestions online from lots of different cities that have done these. So there's a lot of different resources out there. Okay. Is there any more discussion on this item? Okay. If not, then I'm gonna make a motion by resolution to reestablish the Youth Commission as a 9-member city commission that will be an advisory body. Well, it's not, it says 9 on here, but it's 10 in here because it includes the council member. So 9 plus the council member. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Is there any public comment on this item? I feel like the people who came for public comment already left. They told me that they wanted to stay, but they had to do childcare and other things. Okay, so then I'm gonna, by resolution, make a motion that by resolution, we reestablish the Youth Advisory Commission as a 9-member city commission that will also have a city council member, as an advisory body to the city council, and that the resolution will have the amendments as we have listed during the meeting. Is-
Second.
We have a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara,
Aye.
Holmes,
Aye.
Sierra Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Hurst.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, that is it for council business. Mr. City Manager, your report?
A long one.
Yeah.
Thank you for printing. it
Very
up.
very
Yeah,
detailed.
so the new format. So I'm printing these out instead of trying to cram like 2 or 3 bullet points into just a couple minutes. So I'm going to hit the high ones that I think that council and the public should be aware of. And then these are at the back of the room for folks in the audience, and then they'll also be posted on the website, I think under the agenda for this meeting, or it might be under the city manager's department, but it will be posted somewhere. So first up, on the TOT measure, the council adopted resolution 2480 back, I think towards the end of June, to place a ballot measure on the November election that increases both the city's transient occupancy tax, or TOT tax, from 8% to 10%, but then also include short-term rentals and require those to pay the TOT, where they don't do that now. We've been assigned Measure F on the ballot. So I want to let folks know about that. And we've had arguments filed in favor and opposing the measure. We created an informational page on the city's website. You can find that on the report here, and the PDF that'll be posted on the website actually has the link to that. But it's on the homepage with a link to take you to the informational page. Next up, we had a request from the Downtown Business Association. They reached out to do a potential project to plant street trees along various areas of High Street to create a more welcoming environment, adding shade and some color to the street there. So Public Works Director Menjel Dean and I walked that area on Friday with one of the DBA representatives, and then we approved the project in most of the areas. Those trees will be planted along the sidewalk where it looks like previous trees may have been located. There's some cement kind of cutout spots that look like they were filled in. So we'll be taking those out and planting trees in there. If there's areas without water, the trees will be watered by a tree watering bag, similar to the crepe myrtle tree that's near the Auburn Journal. I think that's going to be a really nice kind of lift up of that area. It kind of brings some color, especially to that
Mr.
area
City
of
Manager,
the street.
I know we've had issues in the past of the wrong trees being planted and causing problems with ADA and pulling up the sidewalk and things. Are we being a little more deliberate in what trees we're
They're going
planting?
to be the crepe myrtles or red buds. Both of those, the roots go down, they don't go up, so they don't pop up the sidewalks. And then they don't get more than, I think, 25, 30 feet at the highest. So it's more about bringing kind of pops of color, making the kind of vibrancy to that area. They won't have any issues with the sidewalk. So
I had also heard that there had been concerns from business owners in the past of their signage being blocked by trees. Are we creating an inherent problem later by adding trees and then having those issues?
no, because these are farther out towards the front. Those sidewalks, they're pretty wide. They're closer towards the edge of the sidewalk, and they don't get tall enough to block the signage.
Okay.
And this is brought by business owners.
I know, I understand. I understand that people like the idea of them, and then once they
True.
grow up and change, they don't look the same. Oh, I have one in my yard. No, I totally do.
Yeah.
But I just also know that people like the idea until it does something that
Right.
they think impacts their business. So
Right.
just wanted to double check.
And just on the crepe myrtle front, we also planted 2 crepe myrtles in the front of City Hall along yeah. So we had an issue with the sidewalk where a lift broke through the top of the sidewalk. The sidewalks are obviously pretty old there. So we dug that area out, and rather than just filling it back in with cement, we put a little planter box in and put 2 crepe myrtles in to bring more pop of color there. Looks really nice. Wow.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that. Form-based code project continues. RGS Consultants helping city staff with that. We're going to have an open house on Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. here at City Hall. And so make sure to come to that, learn a little bit about what the form-based code's all about. Yes, ma'am.
The 15th is a Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Then it is whatever the Wednesday is.
It is
14th.
Thursday.
14th. It's Thursday.
My calendar for Thursday.
All right. So it's Thursday, the 15th.
Okay.
Ignore the Wednesday. Thank you. I'll fix that before we post it. Let's see. Wells Fargo building has been purchased. I think most people have seen that. So that big building in Central Square, purchased by a local entrepreneur, Dallas Drake and his family. So we're looking forward to that getting up and running. And then the city recently issued a request for proposals for a hotel feasibility study that was included in the city's budget for 24-25. We sent that out and we've actually received 8 responses to that. So we're
Explain that, like, are they finding locations where they think there could be a hotel or?
finding locations where it would be, whether or not it's economically viable to have another hotel here, all of that stuff, right? So basically looking at the economics and the locations for a potential hotel site. Yeah. So that's kind of the big highlight stuff. There's a lot more in this thing. It's almost 4 pages long. I can answer questions on any of that you might have.
Great, thank you. Is this posted on the web? This is posted on the website?
It will be after tonight.
Okay, great. Okay. Council, do you have any updates or do we want to just?
I do want to just very quickly let folks know that Pioneer Community Energy recently PG&E, maybe not quietly, but they did do a temporary reduction in their rates for electricity.
PG&E did?
PG&E did because they over collected. So they over collected and so they instituted a temporary reduction. Not much, maybe 9%, but they haven't defined that. But what we presume it to be will be
Week.
yeah, we presume that it will be probably into fall, but as a result, Pioneer Community Energy, our board of directors met and we further reduced our rates. So an average of 5%, Auburn or Placer County about 3%. So because we are always under PG&E. And so we actually lowered our rates a little bit more. So
I like this trend. Can you keep? This?
Yeah. So we're trying, Pioneer for us, really our focus is on rates and ensuring that we keep our rates lower than PG&E. We have a whole mantra, but because of that temporary reduction, we then reduced our rates further. So Pioneer Community Energy customers will see an additional savings. It's all expensive, but anytime we can lower rates, even if it's just a little bit, it's better than nothing. So I'm very proud of that. And we also are looking at expanding our territory for Pioneer. I've been on the speakers trail traveling all over Northern California, speaking to boards of supervisors and city council members that are interested in joining Pioneer. And the most recent has been West Sacramento. At the request of Mayor Guerrera, I traveled with our CEO for Pioneer and talked to them about the benefits of joining a community choice aggregate like Pioneer. They have one in their own backyard, but they asked specifically about us because we're so rate centric, right? And so we'll continue those efforts, and the more customers that we have in the system, the better prices we can negotiate for power. So it's very exciting things happening. And I just wanted to share that with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. If we're okay with foregoing okay, then if there's no other business, then we stand adjourned. Thank you. Oh, wait.
Council committee reports?
Yes, we just all agreed that we were gonna forego those, but would you like to mention, because we wanted.
Well, I've got a couple things I wanted to say.
We are not adjourned yet. Councilman Holmes.
Well, I just wanted to report quickly that the Placer County Air Pollution Control District Board met the other day and approved a $15 million budget. And there should be additional fast charging EV stations available. Also, I've been working with Kevin Kiley's office about Station A, getting that reopened. And I've been trying to nail down people at the Old Town Business Association to see if we can recruit somebody who might want to take that over. And so, and also, I'm working on a co-housing project up on Nevada Street above Palm Avenue, and we'll see how that's going to go. And I was going to suggest as far as the where the domes is, a co-housing project might work there as well.
I would assume that Jonathan's involved with the co-housing project as well, or knows what's going on with it.
What's that?
He said he was involved in some kind of co-housing project, so I would assume that planning is being involved in that too. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for pursuing the post office.
Yes.
That's excellent, really helpful. Thank you.
Yes, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but my impression is that the Old Town Business Association is not working together, but
Oh, well, you'll work on it.
yeah.
We all
Right.
will. We all will.
Okay, if there's no other